Hello and welcome to another session of AZMAT System tutorials. We are going to use Excel 2010, which is XL14 on Windows XP PC. Just go through this. File help shows Microsoft Excel 2010 version 14. If I click on the additional version and copyright information, again you get Excel 2010 version 14. Click on the system info and it gives details about the operating system and other details on the PC you're using. In this box, operating system name, OS name, Microsoft Windows XP Professional. Close that. So we'll start by opening the AZMAT System tutorial, AZMAT System program file, rather. File open. And I'm using it from drive G. You can use AZMAT System from any drive on your PC. Right. All these are AZMAT System files, program files. Open as read-only, the main program file. Simple password for this to begin with. I'm using on a slow machine. This is Windows XP. On a faster machine, it will take much shorter time. AZMAT System password, but on your own machine, you can change it to all the passwords to whatever you like. Let the user know what's happening in the status message. Two-letter ID, I'm using AA. Oh, see, I pressed twice. Okay, by mistake. 4-digit password. Because that's the error message you got because I just pressed return or the password, my own password. So it came up with blank, obviously. Right. So we have because it's Windows XP and rather than Windows XP, Excel version 2010, all the AZMAT System menus will be on here under add-ins. Add-ins will be added to the menu there. In the older version of Excel, up to Excel 2003, which is Excel 12, the user's own menu, your own menus could be added on. So just to the left of the help menu. Whereas from Excel 2007 onwards, they would be added only like this. Click add in and then your own menus. It's going to restore it. Okay, first thing I'll do is just go into the new menu and save the AZMAT data file. So I have some idea, 10th of September 2017, 10:10 a.m. So it's all 10s. Right. We are going to look at the Y menu in this particular tutorial, which is all the risk management commands are here. So we'll briefly go through this. We don't need to, we may have noticed in previous versions, I always updated the risk management, sorry, not risk management, the reference curves almost every time I used the AZMAT system, because these had to be updated every day if they're going to be used. If any reference curve has to be, you wish to use that day. But risk management is completely separate. All these commands have nothing whatsoever to do with reference curves, asset swap model, or any investment banking calculation models. It's literally a complete system, separate system, independent system on its own. So AZMAT system actually consists of 4 systems in one, if you like. So it has the risk management on its own, then you have all the reference curves, the rates environment. Then within that, we have then we also have the asset swap model. Asset swap model, which uses the rates environment, all the reference curves. So it's kind of independent, but uses the reference curves from the rates model, rates environment. And then we have all these other calculation models which do not use any reference curves from here onwards. And then there's, so the AZMAT system really is a combination of separate independent modules. And one of those is risk management one. And this is what we're going to look at it today. We'll just go and look through each command briefly, and then in detail, probably in a separate tutorial, we'll see how it goes on. So the Y menu, risk management menu, first command A, and also one thing I would like to mention, that this, as you may notice, that you have the scroll bars, vertical scroll bars, so you do go down because there are other commands here. In this case, it happens to be the very last one, but only it depends on your the monitor you're using. This particular monitor, I can see all the commands here, although there is scroll bar because I have got this separated bar. On your own PC, depending if the monitor, if it's not very big, or depends also on the resolution, you may have to use the scroll bar. So remember all these commands. For example, some commands like this G menu is okay. The no scroll bar. X menu is even shorter. So you will not have any vertical scroll bar. You can see all of them on almost any screen you're using. But the longer menu commands, the K menu, and the Z menu as well as the swap model, and same as goes for here, Y menu and the N menu. You would need, even so, for example, the N menu, you need scroll bars here to see all the commands. So the A, the volatility file short overview, gets about 15 lines of data from beginning and end of the JPM volatility text file. So we have this risk management, I should explain, was developed to use, one of those was JP Morgan's risk management risk methodology. But the actual text file we will be using, it will not be that. It will be simply a text file which we will use for volatility and correlation file, but it's not the JP Morgan's file. It's the one I have created, or fictitious data, but the format is such that you can see all these commands when we actually see what they do. So you'll get an idea of what is involved. That's the only purpose of this, to teach you different methods of risk management calculations. So one of those is here, for example, here we'll be using for this menu the actual risk management files. So it gets about 15 lines of data, the first one, volatility file. The actual file may have quite a lot, but here it gets about 15 lines of data from beginning and end of JPM volatility text file. So the file could have perhaps, for example, 100 lines, but it doesn't show you the whole 100 lines. It just takes the first, it gets about 15 lines, just a few lines from the beginning and a few lines from the end, just to give you an overview of that volatility short file. Second one, volatility file long overview. This gets about 150 lines of data from beginning and end of JPM volatility file, which is a text file. So the short overview gets about 15 lines, few lines from the beginning, few lines from the end. But the long overview, volatility file long overview, gets about 150 lines. Again, from the beginning and end of the volatility text file. Correlation file short overview, similar to the volatility file, gets about 15 lines of data from beginning and end of. So for example, if the whole volatility file had like that, for example, assume that that is what you have, it will get a few lines from here to there, for example, and then again from here to there, total of 15 lines. And the same goes for the next command, the correlation file long overview. Gets about 150 lines of data from beginning and end of JPM correlation text file. You'll see when we actually start using these files, you'll get an idea of what it is. Right now, that's all I'm going to go through. Next command, all volatility for currency or commodity. So CUR stands for currency. COM is short for commodity. So gets the volatility data for all instruments of a given currency or commodity. Now here, in older versions of Excel, particularly very old ones, say XL7, you could display in the status bar. As I move along the command, which I'll show you in another tutorial, you will see, and I have shown it actually already filmed, but I'll probably film this one as well to show this this menu. As I move along the various commands, longer descriptions of each command up to here, I could display longer description. But in later versions of Excel, as in this one now, Excel 2010, which is Excel version 14, that facility or functionality is not available to the programmer. So in here, this status bar is reserved only for Excel own messages, whatever they want to display. This doesn't go here, as you can see here. Nothing is being shown here. So this particular command here, for example, here, all volatility or for all volatility for currency or commodity, the longer message would have been displayed in older versions of. It is in the program. It's only one main AZMAT System program file. Depending on which version of Excel you are currently using, it will show that. So it's not deleted or anything. The longer description is available, is in the Excel system, but depending on what version of you're using, which particular version of Excel you're using, it will either display that message here or not. So in Excel 2010, all you can see is what you can show to the user in the actual menu description. This is limited. You do not have what you see here is the maximum I could use. So this command, all volatility for currency or commodity, has a longer description, and that description is gets the volatility data for all instruments of a given currency or commodity. Second one, all correlation. Similarly, next one is here, all correlation for currency or commodity gets the correlation for all instruments of a given currency or commodity. You'll see what it means when we start actually using these commands, and you'll see the actual volatility and correlation files, what they are. It'll make sense to you. So for the moment, just bear with me. We'll just go briefly through all these commands. Third, same instrument, correlation for currency or commodity. So this gets correlation for same instrument of second currency or commodity versus first currency and instrument or commodity and instrument. So next command, all instrument correlation for currency or commodity. Now I had to briefly describe as I could in order to show what I could display in the width available, and that's all I have, maximum there, as you can see, just about there I can fit in. So in here, the longer description, which is in the AZMAT System help file, and also in older versions of Excel, you could see it here. The longer descriptions for all these commands is available. So the long description for this one is, so all instrument correlation for currency or commodity is correlation for all instrument of second currency or commodity versus first currency and instrument or commodity and instrument. Fifth, same instrument correlation for all currency or commodity. So this is to get the correlation for same instrument of all currency or commodity versus currency and instrument or commodity and instrument. Sixth, all instrument correlation for all currency and commodity. Correlation for all instrument of all currency and commodity versus currency and instrument or commodity instrument. It may sound very complicated on perhaps right now, but as you start using it as a system on your own PC and just play around, it's really a lot of fun to see what for example, the correlation is between, say, gold and silver or platinum or different currencies, US dollar against Japanese yen or US dollar against British pound sterling, and so on. That means how one instrument, one item, if you like, one item moves against the other. So if, for example, if US dollar goes up, does the pound go down or goes up as well? Or has no effect whatsoever, so on. So that's what this is all about. All this when you're talking about the different the correlation between one instrument against another. So the sixth one, we said all instrument correlation for all currency and commodity. So correlation for all instrument of all currency and commodity versus currency and instrument or commodity and instrument. Open. Now we come to the difference. So I have separated these commands with a separator bar. This is what you will be able to do yourself when you design your own menus, as you'll see in this one, End menu. This is specifically I've added to AZMAT System in order for you, the user, to be able to program your own menus and add them to AZMAT System or to your own Excel system. So, like here, that's why I'm using I'm using here, for example, separator bar, because these are all our Excel macro commands, whereas these are all Excel VBA commands. So use the separator bar to separate them. So in here, back to the risk management menu, these commands are all query files. So get the data, get AZMAT System to produce reports, if you like, for whatever correlation or volatility you want to see between different correlation, different instruments and so on, or volatilities. Whereas these commands are completely separate. They're doing different things. That's why I'm using separator bar there and there and there. Think of these like, if you like, separator bars, paragraph, different paragraph. That deals with a different topic, and this is a completely different topic, so it's in a different paragraph. So that's what separator bars are. You don't have to use them. You can mix them all if you like, a whole lot in one go if you want, but choice is yours. It makes more sense to use them if you can, and if they are available. In here, for example, in this End menu, I've used only one separator bar. Then here I put one at the end, but that's because it's there, so you know that is the end. Reason being, it is absolutely essential, if you like, for me to use this separator bar so that you, the user, knows that that these commands are Excel macro commands, and the ones below, when this after the separator bar, are Excel VBA commands. So it's really absolutely essential, I think, to use this rather than just coming here from J then K without any, and you wouldn't know where one macro language begins and ends. So, and at the end, for example, I've just used it because I just thought it would be a good idea to show the end of these commands. And that's the limit of the number of commands I could add in Excel 2010. So there is a limited number of commands you can add to a menu, because of what would have been you would have been able to see. Anyway, back to here. So this lot is in a different paragraph, if you like. So use the separator bar, different type of commands. So the first one is open previously created AZMAT query file. So opens previously created AZMAT query text file, requires the file name. So these are all, for example, here, these commands are your query files. So when you create a file, AZMAT System creates a file, for example, this one, same instrument, correlation for currency or commodity. So that will create a query file, and AZMAT System will tell you what the file name is, will show you actually what it is as well. And so later on, in a different session of Excel, maybe on the same day or different day, different year even, as long as you know the file name, you can open it. So it will open the previously created file, requires the file name from you. And you also have in here the change to, for example, volatility and correlation files directory. DIR stands for directory DIR. Think of it, DIR directories, what used to be called originally, what you now perhaps call or know better as folder. So think of directory and folder is the same thing. So you have actually, there's an AZMAT query text files directory. As within AZMAT system, there are several subdirectories or folders, if you like. And I'll just show you. We'll just go into. Okay. I'm just going to quickly go in here. Right now, I'll be in the AZMAT user directory. I'm going to change it to the AZMAT program directory using the command. And from there, I can show you file, open. There's the AZMAT program directory or folder. And in here, if I go to the right, these are 5 subdirectories or subfolders within AZMAT main folder, and they are here. And one of them is AZMAT text. Right now, this folder is empty. There are no files, but all your query files will be stored in here. That particular text file directory. So we'll go back here, and right now, if I also, there is one other directory or folder which is used by AZMAT system. Apart from these 5 subfolders of the main AZMAT program folder or directory, is the one called AZMAT, but it's not the program one, it's the one under the root file. So for example, if this particular one I'm using G, so it'll be under the G drive, G:\AZMAT. That's your user directory. So in here, if I'm just going to come out of it now, and I'll show you that one by simply getting AZMAT system to quickly change it. It's quicker than user's own directory. So there, if I say file open, you'll see it is G. In this case, because G, that's where I started AZMAT system from. It could have been F or any other C or D. But this is that under G, so this is directly under the G drive. So it's G:\AZMAT. That's my user directory. As you can see, all these files here begin with AA, the 2-letter ID of the current user. I'm using AA, so all my files begin with AA, and they are stored here. I'm going to go back to the Y menu in here. So open previously, so this particular command, F, opens previously created AZMAT query text file. It requires the file name. Now, I couldn't put it here any more than these number of characters I have. But in the longer description, as I said previously, which would have been displayed here, it does show, it would have shown that requires what it requires and so on, up to the limit which I had up to here. For example, from there to there, you would have the longer description which you could display in earlier versions of Excel, but not in later versions. So later versions, whatever you have to describe within the limits of the actual drop-down menu. Of course, it's in a help file as well. The descriptions are there, but it was very useful to actually see here. So here we have opens the previously created AZMAT query text file, requires the file name. Next one, change to AZMAT query text file, which you just done, changes to directory or folder, if you prefer folder. But you will notice that in AZMAT system, everywhere I'm using directory because that's what you used to call, was what you now perhaps know better as folder. But as you begin to use AZMAT system, you will get used to it. Directory is an earlier name for folder. So changes T is this one. Change to AZMAT query text files directory. So you can see quickly which files you have. If you have the, how many, maybe previous, all your report files, query text files will be stored there. So you can look at it, and then if you don't remember the name, you can see because to use this command previously created, you don't have to remember it. You could actually quickly go and see it and say, right, that's the one I want to open it. So changes to the directory or folder containing AZMAT query text files created by all users. So this one, the query or text files, remember, all users, say in an investment bank, you have maybe 20 users or maybe hundreds of users. All their text files, query text files will be stored in that folder or directory. And that folder, the query text file, as we saw earlier, is under the main AZMAT program folder or directory. So you can open other users' query text files if you want, because they are just query text files to see. So this particular command simply changes to that directory. Remember, it doesn't actually open any file, it just changes this directory to AZMAT query text file directory. This is the one which actually opens previously created AZMAT query file. Next one, changes to bond. Database files directory. I've added these, although this particular file may not be much, you may not have much relevance in here, but I've actually included it is just in case you may be interested to see that in here. So I've added this here into these commands here to change it. All we are doing here is changing the bond data, the bond changes to bond database files directory. This one changes to AZMAT query files directory, and the last one is changes to volatility and correlation files directory. L, prepare volatility files. Now this command prepares the JPM volatility text files for later use. In order to use these, just like if you remember we have in the K menu, for example, the ZR USD.XLSX rates file. In order to use that in any valuation commands or any calculation of present value, yield, duration, IRR, or discount factor, for example, the rates file had to be updated first, AZMAT system, before you can use that date. If you're not going to use that, for example, the ZR GBP, British Pound Sterling reference curve, you don't have to update it that day. But if you're going to use that day, you have to update it. Similarly here, prepare volatility files and the prepare correlation files, these commands, you have to use them before they can be used in the risk management, these commands here. So prepares the JPM volatility text files for later use. And this one, daily or monthly. Remember, there are separate files for daily version, and there's another version of outlook, and the other one is a monthly outlook. Similarly, correlation files, same thing. There's a daily correlation files and there's a monthly correlation files. Over a period, for example, daily, on a daily basis, the if you look at the currency, say US dollar against pound sterling, there's a daily correlation, but there's also monthly correlation as well, or a longer period. On a monthly time period, the correlation may be different, will be different indeed. On a daily short-term one, it will be different to the one on a monthly correlation. So the next one now, get single volatility data. Retrieves, like gets, any volatility data from daily or monthly JPM volatility text file. So gets the actual volatility data from the, remember there are daily and monthly volatility files. You have to say which one you are using, whether you want to use on a daily one file or the monthly file, and then it will get that data for you. Next one, get correlation, retrieves or gets any correlation from daily or monthly JPM correlation text file. Single correlation, single volatility. Remember, this correlation files, these could be as big as 3.5 megabytes. So it's got lots of data, hundreds of lines of data. Guess the single one that you require very quickly. This one here, risk report, just got 2 words, risk report. But on older machines, this command can take longer than half an hour. Gets the whole very, very detailed report based on what the actual, depending on the number of what type of report it is. Volatility file reports very quick one, but the correlation files can take much longer, very much longer on older PCs. On later PCs as well, it can take some time, definitely more than just getting the single ones or any of getting these short or long overviews. So the risk report, bear that in mind before you start using that command. We will use all these later on and then see on the screen so you can get some idea what it is. So risk report, cash. Now this one is cash flow map. Now there are 3 different maps. They're not the maps as you know in geography, map of the world or whatever. Map used in the terms of this risk management, and here cash flow map, and so on. It's completely different. It has a completely different meaning. You will know later on as I describe them to you. They are very, very different to the word map, as you know in English. Prepares risk report using JPM risk metrics methodology and data sets. So this is what JP Morgan had produced their risk metrics methodology, and they asked basically anyone, any programmer could produce a program based on their risk metrics methodology. So I used one of their methodology, and this report produces a report based on that methodology. But within AZMAT system, you also have 2 other ways of calculating risk as well, which we will go later on. So let's have a, I'm just going to come out of this. Quick look at this here. We'll now begin to show, still I'm not going to go into actual command, but I'm going to go each of these commands in a little bit detail. So it will get you some idea what it is. And in yet another tutorial, because it will take quite some time before we can actually go through these in detail, each of these. So maybe even stop somewhere halfway, but we'll see how it goes. So the volatility file short overview gets about 15 lines of data from the beginning and end of a given JPM volatility text file. Remember, JPM, I'll be using it quite extensively to describe because that's what well, I'm using it short for JP Morgan because it's this their risk matrix methodology on which this particular one type of risk management method I'm using it to demonstrate these commands, for example. So the volatility file short overview. When this command is invoked from the Y menu of AZMAT System, right, that is invoked or used. So when you use this command from the Y menu of AZMAT System, a message is displayed as follows. AZMAT System requires full name of the JPM volatility file, name of the expanded text file, not exec file, and the name of the directory or folder where that file is stored. This message is suppressed if the extra screen messages feature is turned off. Use extra screen messages on/off command from the U menu. So, for example, in the U menu, you have the option extra screen messages on or off. So if this command, as we had gone through these in other tutorial for U menu, if the extra screen messages, I can turn it on and I can turn it off. So for example, if I click it on now, I have no idea whether it's turned on or off. This you can describe, you can specify in your own initialization file. So for example, in my case, since I'm using the letter AA, my initial parameters file is aa_ini.xlsx or .xls in earlier versions of Excel. In later versions of Excel from 2007 onwards, it'll have 4 characters. So it'll be aa_ini.xlsx, which is the current version. So in there, I could specify that as well. I can specify all these, my, if you like, what the parameters are, on, off, this, that. But I can also change them within AZMAT System, once AZMAT System started, whatever it was. So for example, now if I click this extra screen messages, if I click it, tell me as from now, AZMAT System will display as extra screen messages. Please note that this feature is applicable to certain commands only. So this command, the one we saw in here, so I'll click this OK on. So now it will start displaying it, extra screen messages, right? So if I go here in the Y menu, and I here, for example, if I use that command, it'll also apply to various other commands as well, but say this particular command, the one I'm showing you now, it will display what it requires. because the extra screen, so I'm just actually going to click this volatility file short menu very quickly, just to show you what it means. We won't go through the actual command itself. So volatility file short overview, if I click that, says here, AZMAT System requires full name of the risk matrix volatility file, name of the expanded text file, not .exec file, and the name of the directory where that file is stored. Now this message will not be displayed if you have the extra screen messages feature off, because frankly this can get very boring and it will take unnecessary amount of time, because if I'm the user, I already know that this is what it does. Maybe first time I didn't know, first few times, yes, I may want it to be reminded. But once I know, I don't particularly want to be bothered with this message anymore. So if I have the extra screen messages feature off, I won't see this message. But for new users, I would suggest you have it on so that you can see what it means. So I have, when I click OK, it will proceed with the command, go to the next stage, because this command requires file name. So I can cancel the command there anyway. It won't just simply go straight into the command. So this is going to the next stage, enter the file name, full name of the volatility file, and then click OK. Okay, but as I'm not going to go through this command, I'm going to use this cancel button to cancel this command. It will remind me that I have chosen to cancel. Do I really want to cancel the command? If I click OK, it will return to the input box, or click cancel to cancel the command. So I'm going to cancel the command, as I do not wish to go through the command itself right now. So if I go here, so remember, volatility file short overview, this and all these commands, various commands, they all will use this, they will display that message. So I won't go through that message when I'm describing these other commands, because they all will use the same, will display that message on every time you use that command, as long as you have extra screen messages turned on. If you turn it on, as I'll do that right now, it will not display that message, and then we'll show that it will go through that command again, then you'll see what happens. So extra screen messages on or off just toggles. So if it's on, turns it off. If it's off, turns it on. So right now, as we had just turned it on, if I click it, use this command again, it'll turn it off and it'll show, let me know. As from now, AZMAT System will not display extra screen messages. Please note that this feature is applicable to certain commands only. Okay, it doesn't apply to all the commands in AZMAT System. It has about 200 commands. Only certain commands where it is, it's applicable. Click OK. So if I come here, use the same command again, just to show you, it will not tell me that it requires the full name of the file, so on. It will go straight into the message input box where it requires the file name. So if I click that, there, didn't display that initial extra message, straight up to the actual input box. I'm going to cancel it again, say yes, I want to cancel, yes, I want to cancel the command. So we're back to here. User is then prompted to enter input data in a series of questions. First one is full name of the JPM volatility file, name of the expanded text file. Second, full path name, including the drive letter of the directory or folder, as you may know, where that file is stored. This directory or folder could be anywhere on the current computer setup. So it actually, you may think, oh, why doesn't it want me to give the actual derived letter, but it actually gives you the flexibility to use the file, the volatility file or correlation file or whatever here from anywhere on your computer system. Does not have to be in a particular directory or folder. AZMAT System then prepares a short overview text file of the relevant daily or monthly volatility file as required by the user. Note that if the required overview file had already been prepared as a result of an earlier command by any user, AZMAT System simply reopens the file. So, for example, assume instead of using this AZMAT System on your own PC, as you probably are, because AZMAT System was designed to be used by any number of users in an investment bank particularly. So if someone else, another user had already prepared, remember this one said AZMAT System requires that all these files have to be volatility and correlation files have to be prepared by using these commands: prepare volatility file, prepare correlation file. So not every single user has to use this command. Any user on the current computer setup. So if you have in a particular bank, you have dozens of users, maybe hundreds of users. If any one of them had prepared a particular volatility file, had used that command or correlation file, that volatility or correlation file will then be available to all users without them actually having to use this command themselves. So the command applies to the actual file, volatility or correlation file. Only had to be done once. So if that file had already been prepared, volatility or correlation file, by using one of these commands by any user, then AZMAT System will simply start using that prepared file. It simply will open that file and start using it. So the short overview text file contains about 15 lines. So if someone else had already done that, use the command, then it simply open that particular file straight away. Doesn't need to do any more work on it. So it doesn't actually do unnecessary work. If the short overview text file contains about 15 lines. So if no one has actually prepared the short overview on the computer setup, then it will prepare that short overview or long overview or whatever correlation, and same thing applies. If it's already been prepared by any user, it'll simply open that particular short overview text file. In addition to the result of the query, this file contains first 2 lines from the volatility file. So the result of the query will be from 3rd line and below. The first 2 lines are from the volatility file, followed by command identifier, ID of the user, date and time of the command. This will make sense when we actually see a particular file. So we'll go into that later on, not right now. Makes sense. When no longer required, this file should be closed by the user. Answer no to save any changes. So when you open that file, not you, AZMAT Systems open that file, and when you do not need it, close it. Don't keep it open unnecessarily on your computer. But do not, and simply use one of the commands to close it. Okay, you could use Excel file close and say answer no to save any changes. Note that it is also immediately available to all other users. So when you prepared that file, if you were the first user, it will use any other user on the computer, current computer setup will be able to use it straight away. So as long as the file exists in the main AZMAT folder, the query text files folder of, which is a subfolder of AZMAT program folder or directory. Volatility file long overview. This is very, very similar, so I'm not going to go through details with this, with the again here. Almost exactly the same as the short overview, except that this file, the long overview text file, contains about 150 lines, as opposed to 15 lines of the short overview. Short overview contains about 15 lines, long overview contains about 150 lines from the beginning of the volatility file. Then 2 blank lines as entered by AZMAT System to separate the data. Right, AZMAT System uses 2 blank lines, same as in the short overview. Short overview as well uses 2 blank lines to separate the data. After the 2 blank lines, there are about 15 lines from the end of the volatility file. So the short overview in here puts the first set a few lines from the beginning, then 2 blank lines, like here. Think of this like this separator bar. So I have 2 blank lines. So I have some lines from the beginning of the file, 2 blank lines, then the end to separate the beginning and end of the data from the volatility file. So it's the same long overview, also very similar. This is the beginning and the end of the data is separated by the 2 different portions of data separated by 2 blank lines. So you know that which portions are from the beginning and the end of the data. You'll see what it means later on when we actually see the files. And in addition to the result of the query, this file contains the first 2 lines from the volatility file, followed by command identifier, ID of the user, date and time of the command. When no longer required, this file should be closed by the user. Same as for the short overview, answer no to save any changes. Note that this file is also immediately available to all other users. So after you've used it, as long as any user in the current computer setup uses this command, AZMAT System prepares initially, first time, if it's not being used by any other user. Then once it's prepared, it doesn't go and prepare again if some other user asks. It simply opens that file. There is no point preparing it, the same file. Next one, the correlation file short overview. Again, very similar to the other commands, the previous commands, ask you the file name and so on. And this again prepares a short overview text file of the relevant daily or monthly correlation file as required by the user. Note that if the required overview file had already been prepared as a result of an earlier command by any other user, I should say, AZMAT System simply reopens the file. Or even you had done that command, say correlation file short overview, and later on, you might have forgotten whether that you had used this command. You click it again. It doesn't prepare it. It simply opens it if it already exists for a particular volatility or correlation file. And same as the others, the first two lines from the correlation file, in addition to the result of the query, it contains the first two lines from the correlation file, followed by command identifier, ID of the user, date and time of the command. When no longer required, this file should be closed by the user. Answer no to save any changes. Note that it is also immediately available to all other users, as we saw before. Long overview, very similar. Gets about 150 lines of data from the beginning and end of a given JPM correlation text file. Now remember, this file is the correlation files are very, very big files, up to 3.5 megabytes. In older computer systems, where you do not have enough memory, for example, an older machine may have only 500 megabyte random access memory, which is half a gigabyte. And 500 megabyte was considered at that time quite substantial. Now, in 2017, here, I'm using not this current setup. Current setup, I'm actually using Windows XP on an older machine which has 500 megabyte of random access memory, RAM. So that's half a gigabyte. And to open a file, 3.5 megabyte would have, you would prefer not to open the entire file in memory. You wouldn't just, and yet even older machines where you would have, would you believe, 16 megabyte of memory, random access memory. So, and that was considered at that time a very, well, maybe not substantial, but fairly comfortable amount of memory. So just imagine that. At that time, you had to open, you wouldn't even imagine opening 3.5 megabyte of that just to open a text file in memory. So you would not open the file, you'd actually open certain lines. So that's where you will begin to see the advantages of why you would use these commands, for example. To quickly have a quick look at that, short overview and long overview. 150 lines would give you a fair amount of, the user would get a good overview of the data in that file. So that's why it would have created a file with about 150 lines, some rows right from the beginning and some rows from the end of that particular file. So this command is also almost exactly the same as the other commands. So it prepares a long overview text file of the relevant daily or monthly correlation file as required by the user. Note that if the required overview file had already been prepared as a result of an earlier command by any user, then AZMAT System simply reopens the file. Long overview text file contains about 150 lines from the beginning of the correlation file. Then 2 blank lines as entered by AZMAT System to separate the data. After the 2 blank lines, there are about 150 lines from the end of the correlation file. So you have some lines from the beginning, 2 blank lines, and then some lines from the end. So total 150 lines from the beginning and end of that particular correlation file that the user had specified. In addition to the result of the query, this file contains the first 2 lines from the correlation file, followed by command identifier, ID of user, date and time of the command. So you know who has actually created the file first, if you like. When no longer required, this file should be closed by the user. Answer no to save any changes. So don't save any changes. Do not, this particular file, you do not need to save it, particularly it has no meaning. You really want to just see the original version. And you should not really make any changes anyway. It won't make any sense. There are other commands where you can do so, and we'll go into that later. There are various correlation files, the query files you will see. You don't actually need to make any changes. You want to, the whole idea is you are looking at the volatility and correlation files as they exist, as they have been prepared. Now, now we come to these actual query files. Remember, these commands, the first these 4 commands, short overview, volatility file, short and long, correlation file, short and long overview. It gives the quick glimpse of the short overview, particularly gives a quick glimpse of the data, volatility and the correlation file. Longer overview gives a bit longer overview, if you like. A lot more currencies and commodities instruments are there to get an idea what it is. And similarly for the correlation, particularly for the correlation. Because the volatility files are not very, very long, where correlation files are, could go in hundreds of lines of data. So this first command, all volatility for currency or commodity. Remember, CUR does not stand for current. It stands for currency I'm using here. Or COM is for commodity. So currency or commodity, as in risk management. That's what I'm using. Everywhere you see here, CUR means currency, and COM, commodity. You will get used to it as you start using this command, and it will become almost next to nothing. You won't have to think about it second time, what it means. So, when this command is invoked or started from the Y menu of AZMAT System, as we saw, the first one is the one that extra screen messages. If the extra screen messages is turned on, it'll show you. If it's turned on, more details about what this command requires. If it's off, it won't go straight into your input box for that. So user, again, like all the other ones we have seen, the first two input boxes, if you like, are for the file name, to get the file name. Second one is to get the directory or folder name, full folder or directory name, including the drive letter, remember. Third input box is the 3-character currency or commodity code. currency or commodity, because you're saying all volatility you want to see for currency, for a particular currency or commodity. So it could be, for example, US dollar, JPN for Japanese yen, GBP for British pound sterling, XEU for euro, and so on. Commodity could be gold, silver, platinum, whatever. So that is what you'd enter. One, either currency or commodity, and get all the volatilities for that particular currency or commodity, this command. And the actual currency or commodity is a 3-character. See here, for example, for rates files, we were using US dollar, so USD for US dollar. All the other letters, .xlsx and ZR, because it's a reference curve, so that's been added. So similarly here, so the currency is actually the US dollar, USD. That's all we require here. USD, GBP, JPY, XEU, and so on. Commodity for gold, silver, platinum, whatever. And you can, if you're not sure what the actual 3-character code is, you'll soon get to know here by looking at quickly, if you like, look at the short overview of volatilities or correlations, short or long, and then you'll see what they should be. I mean, an asset swap, not asset swap, they are bond, not even bond. I was going to say asset swap dealer or bond dealer. This has nothing to do with the asset swap of bonds. So any investment bank dealer or trader, for example, he or she would know what the names of these, definitely would know all the currencies name by heart and the commodities, maybe some obscure commodity or a new one which has been added. May not, but they will know for sure what they're talking about. So they will know the currency codes and the commodity codes by heart straight away. So they don't need to. But if you are using, as you are to learn about investment banking terms and so on, you may not be familiar with the actual codes. You may be familiar with the currencies codes, but probably not all the commodity codes as AZMAT system uses. And certainly as there are in these hundreds of lines of correlation files. And if you don't know, all you have to do is just look through the actual files by doing the various the correlation file long overview. You'll see a good example of selections of the codes that are present. So after getting the 3 things, this command requires, remember, all these commands, volatility files, short or long overview, or the correlation files, short or long overview, all they required from the user would have been the actual file name, the full name of the expanded text file, and the full path name, including the driver letter of the directory or folder where that particular file is stored. But these files here, as we begin here, they require those 2 items. And in addition to that, the actual, for example, in this command, for this command, currency or commodity, the actual 3-character currency or commodity code as well. This can be in upper or lowercase. Right? So for example, you could just enter USD in smaller case, if you like, or GLD, capital G, capital L, capital D for gold. Or you could just simply use a small GLD, small case, lowercase. Doesn't matter. AZMAT System will itself convert it before using it. So this, again, like the other one, it prepares a query text file in which any matching data from the volatility file is placed. Okay, because this command is all volatility for currency or commodity. So what AZMAT System does is, for example, if you say, right, I want the volatility for, say, gold. So it'll look into the volatility file, and any matching data for gold, it'll get that from the volatility file, a given volatility file name which you've given, and place it in that query text file. The name of this saved text file is generated by AZMAT System, and the file is saved in the subdirectory called AZMAT text, where AZMAT System is installed. See, we saw that here. AZMAT query files, that's the text files. That's where the query file results are stored. All the query files are stored there, available for use by any user on the computer setup, not just by you. Other users can also, if they want to see the gold, the volatility, all the volatility for a particular currency or commodity, if the file already exists, it'll simply open it. It won't create it for every particular user each time. There's no point. So the name of this saved text file is generated by AZMAT System. Remember, it doesn't ask you, the user, what name it should give. It generates the name and it stores it in the AZMAT query text file. This text file, is the AZMAT text subfolder or direct subdirectory of the AZMAT program folder or directory. The first 6 characters of the query file name are the same as the JPM volatility file. Right, so the first 6 characters are exactly the same as the name of the volatility file, followed by 2 characters which distinguish it from any other query file for the relevant volatility file. The last 4 characters are .text. So the first 6 characters are the name of the volatility file. So everybody knows just by looking at the file name which volatility file it refers to. And then followed by 2 characters which AZMAT System uses, and they distinguish it from any other user, from any other query file for that particular volatility file. The last 4 characters are .text. In addition to the result of the query, this file contains first 2 lines from the volatility file, just like the others. Command identifier, characters matched by AZMAT System, ID of the user, date and time of the command. It also states in the last line how many records were matched. So if it matched like 20 lines, 20 records were matched, 30 records were matched, and so on. At the end of this command, a message is displayed stating the number of matching records found, if any. When no longer required, this file should be closed by the user. Answer no to save any changes. Note that it's also immediately available to all other users. Okay, so it's not just for you. Once any particular user in a company, or for example, in an investment bank where it is designed for, then when they use that, for example, you had created this file for, you wanted all volatility for gold. So if another user wants that all volatility for gold, it won't go and create again. There's no point, completely pointless. It'll simply open that file for that other user. Next command, all correlation for currency or commodity. Now this is also very similar to the other one we saw before, we've been through. And I won't repeat, won't bore you with those again. I'm sure you probably know them by heart. It requires all these other things we saw, but the last bit it does need is in addition to the file name and the directory or folder, including the drive letter, it also requires the 3-character currency or commodity for which you want the correlation. So the 3-character currency commodity code you need to enter, in addition to the file name and the full path name. This currency or commodity can be in upper or lowercase, just like the other one. So all the other things are exactly the same as for the volatility file. So there is no point repeating that. So again here, the first 6 characters of the query file name are the same as the JPM correlation file, whereas this one was JPM volatility file. So it will use the first 6 characters as the name of the JPM correlation file, and the name of the 6 files, and then it will be followed by 2 characters which distinguish it from any other query file for the relevant correlation files. Last 4 characters, same as for the text, it'll be the .txt for text file. And in addition to the result of the query, this file contains first 2 lines from the correlation file, followed by command line file, characters matched by AZMAT System, ID of the user, date and time of the command. It also states in the last line how many records were matched. So at the end of this command, a message is displayed stating the number of matching records found, if any. When no longer required, this file should be closed by the user and said no to save any changes. So don't save any changes, just close it using, for example, Excel file close command. Note that it's also immediately available to all other users. Now we come to here. We will be going through these commands briefly when you actually open the volatility and correlation files. It'll make more sense. But right now, there's a lot to go through. We'll go through briefly this command, and then when you watch that either with the actual file, either in a tutorial or on your own, just generate it yourself and see what happens, and use those to look through those files, query text files that you have created by using AZMAT System. It'll all make very much sense and be crystal clear. Same instrument correlation for currency or commodity. So what it does is this: correlation for same instrument of second currency or commodity versus first currency and instrument, or commodity and instrument. So against a given currency and instrument, or commodity and instrument, this command retrieves all correlation data of the same instrument type as that entered for a second currency or commodity. This will be clearer by using some examples. So the user is required to enter first currency or commodity code followed by its instrument code. Right? So you have to enter the first currency or commodity code followed by its instrument code. Then second currency or commodity code. For example, USD or US dollar R030, comma GBP. Note that these letters for the currency or commodity, they can be in upper or lowercase, it doesn't matter. So AZMAT system, if you enter that, AZMAT system retrieves all correlation data of instrument type R for GBP against US dollar R030. It will become further clearer later on when we actually see the examples, which I won't go through right now. I'm going to go through very like in stages. So you learn a little bit at a time. Hopefully then it'll become clearer and clearer as we go in very much detail in the actual examples. So first thing, what do you really need here is, so when it says same instrument correlation for currency or commodity, you have to enter, the user is required to enter first currency or commodity code, for example, US dollar, followed by its instrument code, which in this case I'm using R030. Then second currency or commodity code, for example. So the whole lot, the actual thing, what I would be entering, which I'll be required to enter when I use this command is, for example, USD, upper or lowercase, doesn't matter, comma, R030, comma, GBP. Okay, can be upper or lowercase, doesn't matter. Can be a combination, for example, capital G, small b, small p, or all lowercase, or all capital case, does not matter. Then AZMAT system retrieves, that is, i.e. gets, all correlation data of instrument type R, because I've said R, instrument type R030, right? So instrument type R for GBP against US dollar R030. So if this subject is completely new to you, please bear with us. As we go through it, you will see by looking at the actual volatility and correlation files and the results of these commands, it will become very clear. So let's go one step at a time. So at this point, I just like you to go through these very briefly. I'm going to go through these, but later on we will go through in some later tutorial, definitely not in this tutorial, because there won't be enough time. This tutorial will become very, very long otherwise. And so we will go into another tutorial with practical, looking at the actual files and the results of these files. Then you will see, I'll go through it again and again until it becomes crystal clear to you. And it will become very clear to you, believe me, once you see the actual practical examples. So another example would be DEM for Deutschmark. So DEM, comma, Z1 underscore, comma. Remember, when if it requires, you need to enter 3 characters. So where there are less than 3 characters, I'm actually entering an underscore. to make sure that there are 3 characters. So DEM, Z1 underscore, USD. AZMAT System retrieves all correlation data of instrument type Z for US dollar against Deutschmark DEM, Z10 and DEM, Z1515. Another example, DEM for Deutschmark, S for sugar, S0 underscore, USD. AZMAT System retrieves or gets all correlation data of instrument type S for sugar for US dollar against DEM, S02 hyphen DEM, S03 hyphen DEM, S04 DEM, S05 DEM, S07. Another example, DEM for Deutschmark, S underscore, US dollar, USD. AZMAT System retrieves all correlation data of instrument type S for sugar, for USD against DEM, S02 dash DEM, S03, DEM, S04, and so on. COP, C underscore, GLD. AZMAT System retrieves all correlation data of instrument type C for gold against GLD against COP, copper, COP, C00 dash COP, C03, COP, C15, COP, C27. Another example, COP, C underscore, USD. AZMAT System will give an error message because USD, US dollar, does not have any commodity instrument type. See, so you won't just go ahead, try to get it. If there is an error, US dollar does not have any commodity instrument type because it's a currency code, nothing to do with there is no commodity instrument type. So you'll get an error message. If this command is carried out, it will not result in many matching records. Right, so if there is no point you proceeding with the command, it'll give you an error message. But if you still choose to proceed with the command, it won't result in any matching records because AZMAT System already knows that there is no that the US dollar does not have any commodity instrument type. So there's no point looking for it. But if you still say, right, go ahead, get it, you won't get any matching records. Please ensure that both are either currencies or commodities. Remember, so the command here, if you have COP for copper, US dollar is a currency. So it is meaningless. It's an error. So please ensure that both must be either currencies. So you have copper against gold, if you like, or you can use GBP currency and US dollar, which is also currency. So both must be either currencies or commodities, because this command retrieves all correlation data of the same instrument type as that entered. See, it says same instrument. So the instrument must be the same as that entered for a second currency or commodity. Remember? So if you're saying same instrument correlation, then you're saying that the first and the second instrument both will be either currencies or commodities, right? So both must be the first currency. If you're using a currency as the instrument, then both currencies, then both must be currencies. Both instruments must be currencies. First and the second must be currencies. If both are if you're using commodities, same instrument type as the commodity instrument you want, then both must be commodities. So both must be commodities, like for example, gold and platinum or silver and so on. Gold against silver or gold against platinum and so on. Or platinum against gold can be either way, it does not matter. Or currencies, so it could be US dollar, GBP, or GBP against US dollar. Or you have the JPY against XEU for euro, and so on. So the instrument type must be the same because this command says so, same instrument type. So the first and the second instrument type must be the same. They can be both either currencies or both must be commodities. So US dollar, comma R underscore, comma COP, for example, different example, AZMAT system will again display an error message because copper, COP, copper, does not have any rates instrument type. Okay, copper does not have any rates instrument type, and the other one, US dollar, did not have any currency commodity instrument type. So if this command is carried out, it will not result in any matching records. Okay, so the copper, second currency is here, in this case, US dollar, USD, comma R underscore, comma COP for copper, will generate an error message because copper, COP, copper, does not have any rates instrument type. If this command is carried out, it will not result in any matching records. Please ensure that both are either currencies or commodities because this command retrieves all correlation data of the same instrument type as that entered for a second currency or commodity. Hope it is clear. It will become even clearer when we actually use a practical example or several practical examples, which I'll do so in a later tutorial. Then you will see what it means even better. But for now, we'll proceed with the explanation, further explanation, this command. So when this command is invoked or started from the Y menu of AZMAT system, right, from the Y menu of AZMAT system, when this command is started from there, again at this point, same, we won't go through this now, same as the previous these commands, depending on the extra screen messages on and off, it will display a message or not that it requires for the, and then also for the, it requires the full name of the correlation file and the path, full path name. Then first currency or commodity code, right? So this requires the first currency or commodity code followed by its instrument code. Then second currency or commodity code. So the first currency or commodity code followed by its instrument code. Then second currency or commodity code. Each item should be separated by a comma and can be in upper or lower case. For example, USD for US dollar, comma, A0127. That's the instrument code, comma, second currency or commodity code, that's GBP. Since the first instrument code I'm using is USD for US dollar, the second instrument code must be a currency. So I'm using GBP. Another example could be DEM for Deutschmark, comma, SE, S for sugar, SE, comma, JPY for Japanese yen. AZMAT System then prepares a query text file in which any matching data from the correlation file is placed. So look through the correlation file, the given file name, you've given the correlation file name, any matching data, retrieves, gets it from that file and places it in a query text file. Name of this saved text file is generated by AZMAT System, and the file is saved in subdirectory called AZMAT text where the AZMAT System is installed. Same like all the other query file results, it stores that query text file in that AZMAT query text files directory or folder. The first 6 characters of the query file name are the same as the JPM correlation file. Remember, same as before, we've gone through. First 6 characters of the file name are the same as the JPM correlation file, followed by 2 characters which distinguish it from any other query file or the relevant correlation file. The last 4 characters are .txt. So in addition to the result of the query, this file contains first 2 lines from the correlation file, followed by command identifier, characters match, and so on, same as all the others. And also it states how many records were matched. And at the end of this command, a message is displayed stating the number of matching records found, if any. When no longer required, this file should be closed by the user. Answer no to save any changes. Use Excel files, close, answer no to save any changes, or use one of the AZMAT System commands to close current file. For example, see if I have it here. Close current file, do not save any changes. See? Use that, or use the Excel file close command. So whatever you wish to use whichever way. And so we'll come back here. Right, so that should do the end of that particular one. We have gone through here. All instrument correlation for currency or commodity. Let me just have a quick brief look at that. Right, let's look at this one now. Next one is all instrument correlation for currency or commodity. Correlation for all instrument of second currency or commodity versus first currency and instrument or commodity and instrument. When we go through examples, it'll become probably a bit clearer. So the correlation for all instrument of second currency commodity versus first currency and instrument or commodity and instrument against a given currency and instrument or commodity and instrument. This command retrieves correlation data of all instruments for a second currency or commodity. User is required to enter first currency or commodity code followed by its instrument code. So, for example, USD for US dollar, A0127, GBP. AZMAT System retrieves correlation data of all instrument types for GBP against USD, A0130. See, so what it does is against a given currency and commodity, against a given currency and instrument, or commodity and instrument, this command retrieves correlation data of all instruments for a second currency or commodity. So another example, Deutschmark, DEM, Z1 underscore, USD. It retrieves correlation data of all instrument types for USD against DEM, Z10 and DEM, Z15. Another example, DEM, S0 underscore, USD. AZMAT System retrieves correlation data of all instrument types for USD against DEM, S02 dash DEM, S03 dash DEM, S04, so on. Another example, DEM, S underscore USD retrieves correlation data of all instrument types for USD against DEM, S02, S03, S04, and so on. Another example, COP for copper, COP, C underscore, GLD. AZMAT System retrieves correlation data of all instrument types for gold, GLD, against copper, COP, C00, COP, C03, COP, C15, and so on. Another example, COP, C underscore, USD. AZMAT System retrieves correlation data of all instrument types for USD. There's a whole long list here because USD has lots of these instruments. So USD, R030, USD, R90, USD, R180, 360, USD, S02, and so on. I won't go through that because just by reading through this won't make much sense to you. We'll go through the actual example later on. So when this command is invoked from right menu, same, all the usual things happen. It'll ask you for the file name, for the full path name, and the first currency or commodity code, followed by its instrument code. Then, second currency or commodity code. Each item should be separated by a comma and can be in upper or lower case. For example, USD, R030, GBP, or DEM for Deutschmark, SE, JPY. So then as usual with all the other commands, AZMAT System prepares a query text file in which any matching data from the correlation file is placed. And the name of this saved text file is generated by AZMAT System, and the file is saved in the subdirectory called AZMAT text, where AZMAT System is installed. First 6 characters of the query file name are the same as the JPM correlation file, followed by 2 characters which distinguish it from any other query file for the relevant correlation file. Last 4 characters are .txt. In addition to the result of this query, this file contains first 2 lines from the correlation file, same like all the others and so on. It also states in the last line how many records were matched. At the end of this command, a message is displayed stating the number of matching records found, if any. So if there are no matching records, it will say so. When no longer required, this file should be closed by the user and so no to save any changes. Note that it's also immediately available to all other users. Next command, same instrument correlation for all currency or commodity. Very similar to the other, but slight difference in here because it says correlation for same instrument of all currency or commodity. Remember, this other one was for same instrument correlation for currency or commodity. This one is same instrument correlation for all currency or commodity. That's the difference between this command and that command. You'll see with the examples much better. Against a given currency and instrument, or commodity and instrument, this command retrieves all correlation data of the same instrument type as that entered for all currencies and commodities in the file. User is required to enter a currency or commodity code followed by its instrument code. For example, US dollar, USD, R030. So AZMAT System retrieves all correlation data of instrument type R for all currencies and commodities against USD, R030. Another example, DEM for Deutschmark, so DEM, Z1 underscore retrieves all correlation data of instrument type Z for all currencies and commodities against DEM, Z10 and DEM, Z15 at 15. Another example, Deutschmark DEM, S0 underscore retrieves all correlation data of instrument type S for sugar for all currencies and commodities against DEM, S02, DEM, S03, and so on. Another example, DEM, S underscore. AZMAT System retrieves all correlation data of instrument type S for all currencies and commodities against DEM, S02, DEM, S03, and so on. Another example, copper, COP, C underscore retrieves all correlation data of instrument type C for all currencies and commodities against copper, COP, C00, COP, C03, COP, C15, and so on. Since this command retrieves all correlation data of the same instrument type, and as currencies do not have any commodity instrument type, this command will most likely result in correlation data for commodities only. Okay, let me repeat that. Since this command retrieves all correlation data of the same instrument type, and as currencies do not have any commodity instrument type, right? Currencies don't have any commodity instrument type. Doesn't make sense. This command will most likely result in correlation data for commodities only. So even though you are saying the command has got its same instrument correlation for all currencies, all commodities, for this particular, for currencies, when you have The currencies don't have any commodity instrument types, so this command will most likely result in correlation data for commodities only. The other part of the explanation of the command is almost exactly the same as before. Guess the file name, asks you to input the file name, full path name, currency or commodity code, followed by its instrument code. And each item should be separated by a comma and can be in upper or lower case. For example, USD, R030 or Deutschmark DEM, SE. Then AZMAT System prepares a query text file in which any matching data from the correlation file is placed. Again, the name of this saved text file is generated by AZMAT System, and the file is saved in the subdirectory called AZMAT text, where AZMAT System is installed. The name of the this query file is saved. The first 6 characters, same as before. We won't go into that file name, and then the result of this file contains the first 2 lines from the correlation file, and so on. Again, don't save it. When no longer used, should be closed. Answer no to save any changes. Note that it is also immediately available to all other users. So at the end of this command, a message is displayed stating the number of matching records found. Next command. Open. Sorry, just a moment. We haven't gone through this one yet. Yes. All instrument correlation for all currency and commodity. So correlation for all instrument of all currency and commodity versus currency and instrument or commodity and instrument. So against a given currency and instrument or commodity and instrument, this command gets correlation data of all instruments for all currencies and commodities in the file. The user is required to enter currency or commodity code followed by its instrument code. For example, US dollar, USD, R030. AZMAT System retrieves correlation data of all instrument types for all currencies and commodities against USD, R030. Another example, DEM, Z1, DEM, Z1 underscore. AZMAT System retrieves correlation data of all instrument types for all currencies. I think it would be better if we went through these rather than going through me like that. It would be better if we actually went through and looked at the actual, practical example on the file. Then it will make more sense. So I think we will finish this tutorial now and begin in a later tutorial with an example file and then me explaining. It'll make more sense. So we'll stop this tutorial now